Hello and welcome to the Refinery. I'm your host and the creator of Gas Town Hall, the community for Gastown. My name is Chris Sells, and I'm here with Steve Yegge, the creator and mayor of Gastown. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Chris. Man, this is exciting times. Good to be here.
Yeah, the this is a whole new thing for us. The Refinery is meant to be, a video podcast where we stand in the ruins of traditional manual software development and talk about what comes next. Because that's really where we are, aren't we? I mean, we're watching our entire industry be kind of rebuilt.
I'm glad we got off the ground too, because I've been meaning to there's a bunch of stuff to talk about, announcements and explanations and forward looking, and I haven't had really time to. I'm glad you dragged me into a room so that we can do this. We will do this often.
That is exactly. I know you've been heads down. I know exactly what you've been working on because we have been having regular conversations. And in fact, those regular conversations were so technically interesting, I thought, that I just wanted to, find a time and press the record button. So we want to kind of keep meeting and talking and letting folks know what's up.
Yeah, so this is likely going to be sort of a regular announcements kind of a channel too. I mean, a lot of podcasts look for guests and try to get, and we actually have some really good guests we can bring on
Yeah,
Gas Town. We probably should bring.
yeah.
Actually, I actually see us. I mean, the stuff we've got planned for Gastown and beyond is just, it's so big that we could wind up spending like our whole time talking just about, right, what the community's done and what's next and things like that in almost every episode. But for this one, we're going to do, we want to catch people up. Just give you the backstory, give you a gentle introduction.
Yeah, so that's a really good place to start because I want to dig into kind of the origin story with beads, right? Because I think you had the same frustration we all had, which is we were keeping before all the coding agents really have their own task lists and to do lists. We were keeping everything in Markdown files, and that's how we would do it, right? Spec-driven development. Start with a requirement stock, and then you just do a design, and then shred the design into a Markdown file. That's the tasks, right? And that frustrated you, and you moved on to beads. And tell me the thing that made you go from Markdown files to inventing beads.
Okay, I mean, the truth will shock you. This like tabloid level headline. My game Wyvern, which I probably should have open sourced back in 2014. I will someday. It's like you don't clean your room for a long time. You don't want to just invite guests in just yet. It needs some cleanup. But I've worked on that with a set of contributors for 20 years plus, 25 years, and we tried Jira, we tried GitHub issues. Well, we didn't try. We were on Bitbucket, but we tried Jira, and we tried our own like in-house things and this and that, and ultimately like I worked out of a to-do list and they worked out of their own to-do lists and we all just worked
Right.
on what I thought was most important. And my to-dos was literally a text file in version control for like 15 years. The last I've had a to-do list. And
Sure.
it's prioritized by me sorting the important stuff to the top or the very bottom.
That's right. That's right.
It's the dumbest thing ever. And it worked. And I was so frustrated with Markdown and trying to make Markdown plans work. I remember you and I were talking about this back then. What if you just had like a big queryable plan. You could just
Sure.
execute in space and whatever. And I couldn't do it. I was trying, but the problem that I discovered later is that Markdown, it's not structured data. So it has to read it and
Right.
parse it. And that
That's
adds
it.
load and it's not a graph and et cetera, et cetera. Didn't know. All I knew was I wanted my little to-dos and I wanted them to be versioned. And Claude was smart. And so finally in frustration, I said, just give me a to-do list. Just slurp it all in. And I said, okay. And it immediately thought I meant a database that was like a graph structure that was queryable. And I was like, no, 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 get it. And we were like, fight, 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 fight. Okay, what we'll do is we'll keep it in the database and export to Git, right? So we have both. And that was the birth of Beats. And within probably 3 hours, we designed it in 15 minutes. We built it in an hour. And 3 hours later, I was like, whoa, stop. Look, we've been working for weeks together. I have used more F words on you than I have probably when the whole time I was in the Navy. And all of a sudden, you're all smart now. What is going
Right.
on? And it was like, well, you gave me a memory. I didn't have one.
Right.
And it walked me through it. And we were just like, dang. And within 4 days, I launched it. I was like, okay, the world's got to see this. And it turned out to be an IQ test that most people failed initially, including a lot of people dear to me at my previous employer,
Sure.
who looked at it and went cross-eyed.
Well,
Uh,
actually, so initially I pushed back, right? I pushed back because you had this kind of janky, you put your issues into JSON and you put them in the database so that you can do graph queries over them. And getting started using it because you're my friend, right? I want to use it. Right. So I did. And, I was fighting, the demon was or wasn't working, or, the path name was in the wrong case and it couldn't
sure.
find the right demon. And, it was constantly syncing and checking things into my brain branch because
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this janky piece of crap. On the other hand, when it was working, and this is when I got it,
Yeah.
when it was working, that means that I didn't have to worry about context rot anymore, right? Every agent, I didn't have to cradle them and hold them in my arms to keep working with the context that they gained because all the context was in the beats, right? So every time there was one of the agents got dumb, you killed it, started up a new one, asked it to check the beads, and off it went again. And that part was genius. That was genius.
Well, it was a discovery, right? It was an
Sure,
act, and
sure,
it turned out to be. And I'll tell you, I really believe in the model. The implementation was terrible, and I'm so glad Dolt came along. Somebody noticed
sure,
that Dolt
sure.
had already this problem, and we went through a painful migration for a couple of weeks. Everyone will find that it was worth it. But I believe in the model. Claude Code is still doubling down on compaction as a
Sure.
friendly recommended best practice. Now,
Oh,
obviously, it's in their best interest to recommend that because it's simplest for the users and it makes them the most tokens on average because they'll fill the token window every single time.
sure. I
They
didn't
have
think about that.
a little bit of a financial bias to do it that way.
Sure, sure, sure.
It's not really good for end users to hit a compaction threshold, in my opinion. I believe the compaction threshold is a wonderful backstop, and I love that it exists, and I want it to be smart. But you're relying on the LLM to make a summary, and beads is the ground truth of everything that happened. It's the full ledger. And so if it needs to reconstruct a different view of the ground truth for a particular session, you don't have to rely on your compaction. So beads allows you to be much more precise and controlled and fine-grained about how long your sessions are, which allows you to control costs and performance. Because as we know, they get dumber and as the token window fills out very quickly, and the performance, the cost, the token spend increases quadratically with the size of the window.
So the idea of keeping, a task list externally and, making it a graph. And it's a graph because you have to do this feed first before you can do this one because this one over here depends on, the work that you do over here. That makes sense. And you want them to have parent-child relationships so you can say, hey, this is an epic with a bunch of subtasks. And hey, that's where the graph nature comes from. Markdown is not great for that. You could keep it in JSON, but then that's no longer human readable, right? So, but you can still imagine a taskless system that was just local to your machine, right? I mean, tell me why you wanted to be able to check it in. Because you were saying, hey, you had your set of tasks and every one of your collaborators, they have their own set of tasks. Tell me about the importance of being able to check it in.
All right. Well, I'm just going to steal the idea directly from my good buddy Chris Sells, who explained it to me. The Git commits are the what and the how, or the what and the when, and you can sort of determine the how from that. Your commit graph is sort of the forensic trail. It's your audit trail. It's the only observable record of the work that happened, and a lot of it gets squashed actually. So it's really just sort of a ledger. Well, where's the why? The why is in your GitHub issues, it's your specs, it's in your conversations you had in meetings with colleagues, it's wherever. It's in code comments, right? Design docs. And Beads moves all of that into a data plane that is in Git and ledgered just like your commit history. And along with you, and now with Dolt and Git, which they're launching tonight. So by the time people see this podcast, it'll be live.
Sure.
Have the how graph, the what graph, and the why graph. This is Chris. You drew this out from the board and blew my mind, right? And these two graphs together are a data warehouse that is just unbelievably rich forensic and auditing observability trail for any number of dimensions, including operations and in short-term recovery, non-deterministic idempotence, getting agents caught up on things, but also, even things like vector creation and actually evaluating how well agents did on tasks over time, and or allow constructing human resumes from the work that they did. You can do whatever you
All
want.
of that, all of that is true. The use case that really strikes me is, you know, any software engineering team of any size over any time period is going to be like, why did we do it this way? What was the why did we write the code this way instead of this other way? And that why has always been part of the rich oral history, right? The cave paintings of, the old graybeard who's back in the day, right? I mean, now with beads, and this is part of the genius of it, Steve, is you're checking in the beads and the beads change with the code, right? So you create new ones and they get closed and you can look at the code. You can see what you did and how you did it. And then the beads become the why, right? So you've got that forensic trail. Why did we do it this way? And then you can go, oh shit, that is the right why. We need to keep doing it that way. Or, oh, that's a dumb why. We don't have to do it that way anymore. We can change it, right? And we can move forward, right? And that is super powerful and super missing, right? It's all been, oral.
And there's another dimension to it that you and I discovered when we did our epic whiteboarding session in preparation for this weekend, actually, the big launch we're doing. Where I was telling you that I had noticed that work tends to have three life cycle phases that are very distinct. They're so distinct that they actually have like different lifespan, sovereignty, governance, visibility rules. It's like a Christmas Carol. You got the three ghosts. You got past work, present work, and future work, right? Your future work is your specs. And the beautiful thing is these all live in the Beads data plane. Okay. The universal data plane for all knowledge work. Beads are just tasks. So any task, even if you're a financial professional, can be expressed as a bead. It's not just for coders, right? Anything that an agent might need to do. And the beauty thing is in the future work, in that category, your specs, your open beads, your backlog, right? Your bugs, whatever. Ready work can be claimed usually by a larger audience. Could it potentially be bid on? There can be all kinds of ways you could like present that stuff, right? And that kicks off the chain, the why chain. This is the declaration of why we need this thing, right? And then it goes to your operational work, which is all the busy stuff you're doing as you've claimed the work. Maybe you want it private, you want to iterate on it for a while before you publish, and then it ends up in your digest. And when we mapped all that out, I was panicked because at the time I wanted to switch to Dolt, but we were going to lose the ledger and the ground truth and everything that was making beads so great because it gives you the ground truth of what the
Mhm.
actual.
That's right.
And that's
That's
the
right.
problem with Anthropic and Claude Code's solution. They borrowed from beads and they credited me for it. They were very gracious. They said this is inspired by Steve Yegge's beads. This is the new tasks that replaced to do right. And to do right was the thing that I was mad at when I replaced bead.
That's right. That's right.
So they're acknowledging that, directionally, they like that the knowledge graph and the nature of those bite-sized tasks and that, but they're missing the history component, the Git history that makes it the Y ledger that goes along with your what ledger that makes it so powerful to begin with. So
Sure.
you lose all of the dimensions of rewindability and replayability, repeatability, figuring out, or any sort of evaluation of performance over time. You lose that entire dimension. And it's sad because but you and I realized that like it was beads wasn't with the SQLite and the JSON-L architecture that I first came up with Claude because we hadn't done our due diligence properly and asked the
Right.
obvious, which is, has somebody implemented a
That's
database
right. That's
every database update? Because it sounds like the stupidest question to ask in the world, but it turns out several people have done it.
that's
There's
right.
there's Git LFS kinda, and there's Datomic, and then there's Dolt, which we ultimately went with. And with that, all three of those data planes now, because your ledger it's very interesting how much of that, some of it's private to your company or to yourself, some of it's public to the world, right? All three of those things now can live in a data plane that's federatable through the Dolt protocol. And what was missing was hosting your beads in Dolt in Git. with your code. And I told
Right.
you about this, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I don't know.
Yeah, we
And
were together in Seattle.
on the same day that you solved it, and I called up the Dolt team and they said, yeah, we came to the same conclusion, which is we should have been pushing to get remotes. We should have allowed that as an on ramp, because now the solo developer, somebody who's listening to our
That's
podcast
right.
here, okay, I'm going to try beads for my workflow. Because all you got to do is say, I'm going to use beads and Claude will use it, right? Your agent will
That's
use
right.
it.
That's right.
So now with Dolt, you'll have that beautiful solo experience of it speeds you up. There's no more work disavowal, all the advantages. It will file things instead of forgetting them, right? It has that long context. It's everything you like from beads without all the jank, without the token tax that it constantly resyncing, without the daemon
Yep.
getting stale and all that.
Oh,
That's all gone, right? So
yep.
beads will actually get better beads. And this makes me just really happy because, well, I mean, it makes me sad that Anthropic hasn't adopted it yet, but it makes me hopeful that they might now that we have actually a solid substrate for it.
Well, that would be really powerful, actually, for Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini, right? Open code, right? The world can standardize if they so chose, right? On this idea of capturing work and tasks, and that makes it so much easier to be able to switch between agents, and it's just all there. And of course, you already built all of that. You can tell all the agents, hey, this is how you use beads, and you put it in the rules files, and they all will, and they'll all pick it up and it works great. But it's even more powerful if it could come out of the box, right? And they could be trained on it and they could just, know that that's how they did things. And, that's pretty powerful. And I noticed the change in your terminology as you were like, hey, beads it started as a task list for my work. And now you use a new terminology, right? Which is much broader. But do you want to say more about that?
Well, yeah, you should see the things. I mean, now that we've discovered that beads are bite-sized data in a knowledge graph that can float through the Git data plane and the free cloud hosting that GitHub gives you as an account holder. So now work can get federated around. And so people have come up with stuff like, well, I did mail and beads. Jeffrey Emanuel invented the whole mail concept. He's the one that discovered the
Right. That's right.
beginning of Gas Town. So all credit to
Yep.
Jeffrey. But I wanted it in the beads data plane, and he had a separate standalone HTTP server. And once I
Sure.
moved in there, I realized identities go in there. You can have the concept of a pinned bead. It's addressable content that's versioned over time. And so you
Sure.
have this, like in databases, you have domain tables, like the lists of all countries or all whatever.
Sure.
So
Sure.
they change slowly because you're just domain data. You can put those in beads and you can pin them and use them as whatever you want, right? And so now people have added, like somebody added key value pairs because they're actually much lighter weight than an actual bead because a bead has all these fields.
Sure. That's right.
But
That's right.
it's a universal data plane, and it's a scratch pad for agents to share notes and work with each other. People are using it as a channel now. You see, and so it's an async channel. It's all push pull based, but it can be done fairly quickly, and that's fine. And what that means is it scales to like the world level. You don't have to worry about high speed, synchronous, reconciliation or any of that stuff, right? I mean, we're not using, Spanner or something like that. This is just pushing and pulling work around because we're in the work data plane, right? This is just, hey, I got a job for you. Oh, hey, I got an update for you, right? So it just the whole thing just has these characteristics of being federatable through Git. So man, the whole thing is just magical, and having Dolt now, as the back end, we're going to launch it tomorrow. I can't see anyone using anything else. Why would you? I know there's a team using Git LFS, but it doesn't have it's just a really crude snapshotting thing, right? It doesn't have any of the granularity that you need if you want to do detective work. I think that the world's going to be doing DevOps using Dolt, right? Using Git. Because look, if you want a bunch of agents to like replace business processes, scripts that are running, doing ETLs or
Sure.
whatever you want, or SRE work that are you're just checking a bunch of services, health, dashboards, and stuff like that, monitoring observability. You want to replace all that with agents, and you want to give them some agency, and so they can
Sure.
do stuff. They're going to make mistakes. Doesn't matter how smart they are. We're going to keep giving them bigger and bigger problems so that they'll always,
100%. Right. As soon as they solve whatever we give them and we get a good way to do that, we're just
yeah,
going to give them bigger and bigger things. And in fact,
right.
we're constantly giving them bigger and bigger things. And it sort of works and we go with it or it fails terribly, but then we pick it up later and try it again with new models or new tools. Right. We're just going to be doing bigger and bigger things for sure.
So for a lot of stuff, I mean, for a lot of side effects, you can't really undo them, right? Once you start the car rolling down the hill. But
That's right.
for a lot of things, you can absolutely undo them. You accidentally drop the database row or a table or you screwed up a customer address, just rewind it because you've got it all in Git, right? It's a new mentality where you're like, okay, what if I versioned every step that the agent took? And
Mhm.
this is the opposite of the way a lot of people are approaching swarming. They're like, well, that's the wrong side of the bitter lesson because you're trying to be outsmart the agent to tell it what to do. It's like, no, no, no. What we're doing is we're saying regulatory compliance says that you have to check off these 37 steps during my launches. I'm not
Sure.
going to rely on your memory for that. Go check them all off. There's a bead for each one. And it's this compliance that's I think going to scale up to just a tremendous to workflows that have hundreds or thousands of steps in them, and you'll be able to do them reliably because you're not relying on inference and memory. You're relying on persistence.
Well, it is interesting too because what this gives us, you talk about federation, and that's true. I like to think of it as decentralization, right? You talked about, keeping everything in one of, Google's giant databases, centralized through their API, in the cloud, BigQuery or pick your favorite, right? But the what Beam gives you is that, and Dolt, right, at its core, is that decentralized data, and then when you pair that with the code, right? So you can, committing is rolling forward and undoing, right, is rolling backwards. And so, even for things like, databases have journals and logs, and you can pull those back too. But the idea of this decentralized, arbitrarily large, arbitrarily granular database that you can roll forward or roll backward is a pretty powerful one because we're still learning how to make agents kind of do what we want, and we're experimenting and pushing. And we the thing as software engineers that we have done, we've learned to do over 30, 40 years of pain, is check in our code at small levels of granularity so that when it crashes in production, we can go, oh, what changed? Oh, I see the problem. Either let me fix it or let me roll it back and put it in a working state while I go and fix it. And it takes a longer. We have figured out how we can reduce the the consequences for error in our own work, right? So that we can move really fast and break things. And if things do break, there's a small percentage always does. That's what the SRE role at Google is all about. There's always going to be a small percentage of breakage, but we can fix it because we have that version file system. And now, as I use agents for code and not code, right, all kinds of other things, the very first thing I always do is stick it into Git, right? Because as it changes, I can undo, right? If it makes a bunch of changes that I don't like, I can always undo it.
Let's use an analogy that will resonate with SREs. Is it safe to say, Chris, that 100% of SREs are gamers? Maybe
In my experience,
possibly
yes,
105% of them. So using a gaming analogy, Git is your save game. And all SREs have been operating in, I don't know, what does your game call it when you can't save? When you die, the game is completely over. Nightmare mode, solo hardcore mode,
yeah,
whatever
that's yeah. I
rules
mean,
it,
that's
where when
dark.
you
You're
die,
talking about Dark Souls,
we're
right?
talking
I
about
mean, the Dark Souls
when you
stuff
die, it's
games, right?
over and you start again, or the Souls games. But a lot of
Yeah,
games actually
that's
have
right.
that. That's the mode SREs play in, and that's why they're so draconian and they're so paranoid. Is that a
That's right.
mistake is irrecoverable? You have to go and rebuild, right, from a backup or from whatever. And so this idea that you could have a save game and change the
That's
mode
right.
you're in, it should be attractive to SREs. I would strongly recommend you go and look at Dolt right now for your agentic workflows.
Okay, so bees. We spent a bunch of time on bees, and bees is important for all the reasons we've discussed. But bees was only the first step. It led to step number two. How did you get from beads to Gastown?
Yeah. So last year I was working on the quality problem. I thought that was the problem to solve. I'll be honest, I was chasing the wrong thing. I was chasing the bitter lesson, wrong side of it. I was building a system called Vibe Coder that just reminded Claude to do all the things that it always forgot to do.
Sure,
And it
that's
built
right.
a lot of scaffolding and plugins and stuff in order to basically split the pipeline into the design and the implementation and the testing and the validation and the GitOps. I just pushed and pushed and pushed, trying to make an engineer in a box, trying to make Claude Code good. And it turned into an impenetrable monolith that we didn't like to use. It never got lift off. It just wasn't going anywhere. I tried again in Go. The first one was in TypeScript and it was a mess. And the Go one was tighter and it was a second implementation and should have been better and was better, but it was still a monolith that just wasn't cutting it. But during that process, beads had started at the end of the TypeScript one and kind of emerged as a Go implementation that I busted out. And I was like, well, this is a really good standalone thing. I'm gonna keep this. And it can support any workflow at all. And after like, I don't know, let's see, I started August, September, October, 3 months of trying to solve the quality problem. I switched to the quantity problem. I was like, well, what if we just ran a lot of agents? Would that change things? Would that solve new problems? And right away, I realized that it was going to solve the quality problem. Like Gastown is a remarkably little amount of code, all things considered, and it completely subsumes everything from Vibe Coder, like as a set of plugins, or it's built directly into it. Like I had just been solving the wrong problem. You don't need to make Claude smarter. You need more. Okay, that's the answer. I'm telling you. I mean, just like if I had a time machine, the one thing I would tell myself, I mean, over the last 3 years, it would be more if I could send 4 letters back. MOAR, right? Because what was chat if not completions, like, all the way to the
Sure.
whole function? And what was a coding agent? What was Claude Code if not saying, what if we just lit money on fire and put chat in a loop, right? What if we just said screw it and just burn tokens, like, right? I never could have thought
That's
of
right.
that. Once somebody did, I was like, what if we just lit Claude Codes on fire with a Gatling gun, right? And that was
That's
the
right.
Gas Town. It solved so many man. So anyway, Gas Town, like, but I went to Australia. I was teaching an advanced workshop on vibe coding with orchestration. Like, in other words, like
Mhm.
running multiple Claude codes. What are some tricks? And I told them about mail, and I told them about beats, and I told them about the
Sure.
agent village. That was about as advanced as the thinking had gotten back then in early December. But I knew that I had my little Python town because all I did was like I got like 12 Claude codes. They're all different terminal windows. They're all in different
Sure.
directories, different projects.
Sure.
What if I just like, so I started with Git work tree, didn't like it, but I started with it. I was like, what if I just like put them all under for each project, put them all under, gave them names and just like organized them with like one agent that just kind of knew where they all were and they all had inboxes. And then I just had an organization and it grew from there. And as soon as I went to Australia and told people about it, they first of all, I was like, and it's called Gastown. And they're like, Gastown, right? Which was because they're Australians. But so there's a little bit of confirmation of selection bias going on there, but I was cool with it. But the thing was, I told them about the architecture. I told them about the mayor and how that's you talk to the mayor and the mayor goes and tells the workers what to do. And they loved the mayor, man. They were just like mayor, 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 just buzzing about it. I'm talking about like the college students, the principal engineers,
Sure.
everybody buzzing about Mayor of Gastown. And I was like, man, I think I found my marketing angle, right? And so I said, okay, I'm going to go port it to Go because we need to make it grown up. It can't be a bunch of scripts anymore. And that was like mid-December, right? Like
Sure. Sure.
second week of December. I'm jet lagged. I'm in the zone. I promised them all I'd launch on Christmas Day. Little did I know that over the next 17 days, I would discover the entire machinery of Gastown as we know it today. All of it. I didn't have a refinery. I didn't have a deacon or dogs or I didn't have the witnesses. I didn't have so none of the roles that came about to keep it running. I didn't
Sure.
have all I had was beads and epics. I didn't have molecules or patrols or formulas or protomolecules, all of that chemistry stuff for composing work. We found it over a course of a week.
Sure.
I didn't have everything moved into the Beans Universal Data Plane. We were discovering that in the days leading up to Christmas. As we were like, wow,
Sure.
identities persist. And if the identities and get the agent's permanent, and that means the session's ephemeral, and we're like mind blown, and just like all these discoveries, right? And then on December 29th, I missed Christmas, and I'm like sweating, going, I gotta hit New Year. December
That's right.
29th, I'm like going to the mayor because we kept finding new abstractions. I was like, this isn't good
Sure.
enough, man. I need to hand somebody that's polished. Give me a convoy, right?
Sure.
We were fighting over naming and stuff, right? You can do this, can't do that. And finally, I was like, and then I want this, and it said, okay, and that convoy landed, and that convoy landed, and I was like, what do you mean landed? And I had finished the loop. where I would say, I have an idea, and it would go and it would design it, file the deeds, sling the polecats, generate a convoy to wrap it, put it into a queue that somebody was monitoring, let me know when it was done, help the polecats to the end, finish them off, and all of a sudden the feature was done, like with nothing happening except for me saying that I wanted it. And that was the moment I knew I was going to hit January 1st, and the next 19 hours, blog post, just the blog post, right? And
Yeah.
how that was worth the gas down.
So that is a hell of a story. And it's funny because we've had this conversation before, right? That vision of, being able to talk to the mayor and just to have that work go all the way through the system until it's been reviewed and tested and bang, here you go. Right. That's the dream. That's what everyone wants. That's what all software engineers, in fact, that's how business people treat software engineering teams. A PM will walk into, the bullpen with all the engineers and go, I want a thing, make it happen. And here's the spec, and then walk away and expect the engineering team to self-assemble and build it and test it and validate it and check it
Right.
against the plan and go, here you go. Right. That is the way, business folks treat engineers. And now that allows engineers to all scale to as many agents as you want and as many features as you can manage, right?
Yeah.
To treat, a swarm of agents as their own little sets of engineering teams, right?
That's
That's the dream.
right. And I think it's a good initial shape. I don't think it's the only shape that orchestrators can be. And I think people will want to design their own shapes down the road, and we can
Sure,
talk about that.
sure,
But I found a shape that worked, and it happened to be
sure,
shaped Kubernetes, strangely enough. And I don't
sure.
think that's a coincidence, right? I think that's a natural shape that happens. I mean, and also we discovered there were a couple different kinds of work, right? Like Anthropic told me that they have this internal debate about minimaxers on context. Did I tell you about this? Some of them,
No, 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 no.
so some Anthropic engineers are like, I'm a minimizer. I want to use the least context possible and fire off the worker, get it done, and discard it.
And then start
Move on.
over with the next thing.
Move
Right.
on. In other words, it's all kept in some data store that the status, and we're just using short sessions. And then there's another group that says, I want my agent to be wise and knowledgeable before I even begin speaking to it. And I'm going to load it up heavy with context and work towards the end of the window so that I know that it's bonded with me. And right, they like that feeling again at the end, despite the fact that it gets dementia and it's kind of expensive and all that, right?
That's right.
They said, Steve, which one do you use? Right. And I was like, well, that's the polecats and crew. I use both. They're both there in Gastown as first class citizens. What you do is you go to your crew and you do all your hard design work and you have those long hard
Mhm.
cards, load them up with context, and
That's right.
they file design needs and they'll do investigations for you. That's your one
That's
on
right.
one. Any
That's
work
right.
that's well specified enough that you're like ready to swarm it, you hand it off to the mayor, they give it to the polecats, the witnessing refinery handles it, and that's the minimizing context. They both have value, and you use them both constantly, and one feeds the other.
So that that particular distinction, I believe that is the first time that has ever been said publicly about Gastown and how to
True.
use it and, the vision. And so at this point, I think Gastown, for most engineers that have picked it up, and we have, nearly 1,000 people just in the Discord. So I'm sure lots more people than that. But this idea of how to use it, right? People are making this stuff, right? Because Gas Town Hall has all the docs and all all arranged nice in a hierarchy like a normal docs document. And it's got an LLMs.txt so you can feed it to an agent, right, and learn that way. And then we've got all your blog posts that talk about the big ideas, which are really great and really fun to read. But everyone's been kind of extrapolating how they should use Gastown and learning it on their own and figuring it out from scratch. And that's a pretty high barrier to entry. There's very few people who actually kind of can take advantage of
Right.
Gastown. So
Well, there's an
I
unspoken
was
problem,
hoping,
though. There's an unspoken problem, right? Which is that if we
which is,
how to use it, they will use it. Okay.
so you think it's a bad idea? I know
Yeah.
it's funny in your very first blog, Welcome to Gastown, you're like, do not use this. And you laid out an 8-point scale and you said you may use it if you're in 7 or 8, but unless you built your own gas town, you're probably not in this range
Hey,
anyway.
look,
And if
gas
you have built your own gas,
Gastown shafted me last night. I woke up this morning and Tim Senick Dolt was laughing at me because I accidentally ripped all of SQLite out of beads instead of
That's
Gastown.
right.
Worker got it wrong. It's dangerous. It's a
Yep.
danger.
Oh, for sure.
You converge on correctness, and that's not a path that most people are used to. So you got right. I am actually being a little bit cagey about how to use it. That said, we have a community of people that are going to use it together to build something online that,
That's
gas.
right.
We'll do that all this weekend. We'll tell you all about it. And for that, I think it's great. If you have a Gastown rig and you're willing to actually contribute to Gastown, you're working on Gastown, because if you have a Gastown rig as one of your rigs, then
Mhm.
your agent will be able to figure out and work around bugs in Gastown, right? But if it then I don't want to. I don't need the operational.
I have a Gastown rig. I'm constantly like digging through the Gastown source code. How does this work? How do I think about it? Right.
That's where we are right now. There's a set of contributors, a large set of 100 plus on our Discord who have gas towns or more who have been submitting PRs and their agents get
That's
it.
right.
Those are the people that should be using gas town, and they're using it. They're the frontier. They're the pioneers. We've got the machetes in the jungle and all that. And if you want to join in, we'd love to have you. Right. But
Well, for sure.
in terms of making it safe, I think we need to let the community build the integrations to the systems that are emerging, like sandboxes and virtual machines and all the other, like code reviewer at the refinery, have a review gate, things that people can add in as plugins or whatever, like to make it.
Well, so all of that, I agree with you, right? But, I've spent my entire career building developer tools, as you know, right? You've been with me this is now our third major project together, right? We worked together on the Google Cloud platform and Google. That's where we met. We worked together at SourceCraft, and now we're working together on this, right? You know how I think about these things, which is if you want people to pick up Gastown and to contribute to Gastown and to harden Gastown and work with us on these community projects, right? To build the next thing on top of Gastown. You have to teach them how to use Gastown, Steve. So
Absolutely.
I want to see, and so I mean, you've never showed anyone how you use Gastown, and I was hoping you could just fire up Gastown and build something. And can you show us how you use Gastown, Steve?
So I'll share my screen, and I'm just going to drop us into Gastown where I'm at right now. Let's take a look at Gastown. Okay, so can you see my screen?
I certainly can. Yes.
Lots of pretty. Do you see lots of pretty colors?
Yeah, yeah. There are a green and blue and black, and there's a white one in the back there. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my typical Gastown setup. Mayor is in the middle, the black one. The Gastown crew, which is 8 workers, is on the left here. I'm cycling through them right now. If you look in the very lower left, you see I'm looking at Gus, Jack, Joe, Max. Max is my sheriff. I'll go over here. I'm looking at Emma. She's my sheriff. I'm
And how were you cycling through them?
Control B key and N. Control B is your TMUX key, and you will find that if you add crew with GT add crew, or just tell Gastown to add crew for you for a rig, they'll automatically get added into a TMUX cycle group. Now you can go like this, and you can see them like with Control B S. You can see this list of all of the Gastown workers active right now, which is not many. I usually have about 20 because I have 8 crew for each rig. And I have witnesses, refineries, Deacon, whatever, right? So you can see the beads crew here: Lydia, Jane, Darcy, Collins, Lizzie, Eleanor. I think I'm missing some. There should be 8, but they're all from Jane Austen. So there's a lot of what I would call best practices that I've learned that I haven't shared with people yet. One of
Sure.
them is you want to give your crew. Your crew are so. Let's just talk about Gastown's architecture real quick. The mayor is usually your primary interface. Okay. The mayor has a team behind them. I remember the profound thing that I was going to tell you. Okay. I was waiting to tell people how Gastown works until Claude Code launched agent teams.
Sure. Which I just this week.
Because I didn't know if it was going to change the way that Gastown worked. And
Sure.
I was prepared to throw anything and everything out of Gastown if Claude Code came up with something better. And Sadly, they're still experimenting with it, and so it didn't really have any usable APIs. They're all private. The mailboxes, the messaging, all the team's infrastructure is just a black box. It's interesting because right, they're competing with themselves. They're building a tool that makes it powerful enough to build your own SaaS, and that tool itself is SaaS, Claude Code. So if Claude Code doesn't evolve to be the factory worker that people need it to be for either Gastown or for their orchestrators, Claude Code will get replaced by workers that they build with Claude Code that can do a better job of being factory workers. And
Yep.
Claude Code will get disintermediated by itself. So I really think they need to start being a little bit careful here and really, I mean, be serious about offering APIs here for orchestrators. Okay. That said, and that's why Gastown has so many roles and so many hacks. If we look on the mayor, if we look at the full list, and you can also get a pretty cool list with like a, do you know how to do it? There's a Tmux that will bring up a beautiful list of all your workers.
To be completely honest with you, Steve, the only reason I know as much of Tmux as I know is because I've been learning it as I go to use Gas Town.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I don't know how to like. I know you can split windows horizontally and vertically. Like I would do that
Huh.
all the time, but I don't know the Tmux keys because they get me confused about a lot of stuff. I don't have a great Tmux mental model, and you don't need one to use Gastown. Although I'm sure Tmux users are just killing it with Gastown. You know what I mean?
Which brings up an interesting question, which is why did you build Gastown into Tmux? Because if you attach to a mayor, you are, if the mayor's not already there, you'll create a new Tmux session and attach you to it. And so, tell us why you chose Tmux.
Okay, well, for starters, I think agents need to be observable, like interactable, like agent all the way down. They shouldn't be hidden. I don't like the sub agent model, or I like it, but I want them to be first class agents, right? Teams.
I'm
And
with you.
I don't think agent teams nailed this. I think Claude Code's trying too hard to make them behind the scenes so that you don't have to worry about them. But I think people like teams. So whatever. That's one problem. Yeah.
I have to imagine another one of the reasons you're using Tmux is it gives you the ability to kind of gather them together, right? I mean, you can easily switch between them. You said you have what, 8 agents per rig, right? You can't imagine those as separate windows spread across your workspace and trying to
There's
get in.
no space. This is why the Emacs is actually such a powerful shell manager because it stacks them. If you bring up, obviously Emacs lurking in the background here, right? I have all of these buffers that I can bring up, most of which are shells. I can jump to them really quickly. Okay. And I can do all kinds of shell stuff in Emacs. Just an infinite number of them. I have a very small number open right now. Tmux is really cool. It has a lot of facilities that let you do Emacs like things, and you can do them, but Tmux lets you do them. I mean, Emacs is going to be able to do everything Tmux can. And eventually, I think an IDE will actually be a terminal multiplexer. I don't think we'll be using this form factor. I think we'll be using something like Claude Cowork scaled up to this level.
That's
So,
right. Yeah,
right?
I think so too. I mean,
This
this
is
is a great way to organize. It's also provides, you use it for communication too, right? The nudge feature, right? Is just sending text to another Tmux session, right?
you
And
got
it gives you a way to communicate.
it also gives you a way to use Gastown on your phone via Tailscale and SSH and run Gastown on like a VM. And then you can disconnect from it anytime you want. It's still running. The great thing about Tmux is if I kill this session, kabam, or the
Yep,
window, the mayor's still running. If I
that's
reattach,
right.
I think I'm okay. So I just found a bug in Gastown. So what we'll do is we'll say, yo, okay, so now we'll get some real world Gastown experience. Gastown builds Gastown. I'm going to interrupt it, or maybe I'll let it continue for a little bit. I'm going to say, yo, when I hit control, what is it, D, right? In order to kill this Tmux session, I expected it to detach, not kill the mayor. But it did. Let's investigate. Okay, now it's going to go off and investigate. What I would normally do is immediately switch away. Bye, 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 bye. I don't want to look. Don't watch them work because they're busy. And you watching them work is actually a drain. You can learn stuff from it. You can catch them making mistakes, whatever. But by and large, I find that it's better to just not watch them. Instead, go play some video games or go to another agent and work with it. Right?
Yeah.
Um,
So the way I organize my work is I have I use a Mac with virtual windows, right? So I'm like, okay, this project is running on this virtual desktop. and I interact with it and I unblock it and I read the summary and I send it to do the next thing or whatever I'm going to do. And then it does its thing, and then I swap over to the next one and the next one, and I just cycle. I'm at to the point now. I kind of the other day I was a little surprised. I had 7 of these windows on these all these projects that I was working on because it was just about me making decisions and pointing the direction and letting the agents do the work.
It's not liking my screen sharing anymore. I don't know
What
why.
happened? It says you're presenting.
I know, but I can't switch back. I literally can't switch back. It only gives me the option to stop presenting, and it doesn't let me get out of this mode.
Go ahead and stop presenting and start again.
Maybe we should use Gastown to implement our own SaaS replacement for Google Hangouts, Google Meet, while the audience is watching, just to show how bad the SaaS is. Okay, so we're back. We're in action. Okay, so Max was working over here.
Now, is there? I when I name my agents, I actually tend to name them after people I know in the industry with specific, the specific expertise and characteristics and roles. And do you have? I mean, how do you name things?
Themes. Each rig should have its own theme. That's why Beads is Jane Austen. You don't want to have the same. And Max and Joe, Gus and Jack, these are all Mad Max, either directors, actors, or characters in the Mad Max rig. In my Wyvern rig, I have Wyvern players as the crew. And in the Sky rig, I picked Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So all Zelda characters, right? Ganondorf or whatever. You want a separate theme per rig, I find, because it makes context switching incredibly low friction. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, no, because no matter whatever fragment of text you first look at, it's going to cue in the theme, and then the theme's going to remind you of the project, and you're going to just all the time.
It's why they all have their own color
Sure.
terminal, and it's why, I mean, honestly, they should have their own font, their own theme song, whatever, right? Their own, right? Because that context switching between rigs is like, it's a killer. It's one of the article that came out 2 days ago about the 200-person study at the company where they found out that the reasons why it's so draining, one of the reasons is context switching, right? The cognitive overhead. So I find that theming names, and so you choose your crew's names, or you can tell Gastown, please use this theme, and it'll put in the configuration. I think one of my rigs uses minerals, so quartz, jade, ruby, whatever. They just chooses
Mhm.
minerals. It's a huge. But the beauty, you notice how you said your workflow is not like this. Yours is desktops, right? Which
I switched between desktops. Yeah.
I was using desktops until I switched to Stage Manager, which I really like. Some people probably hate Stage Manager, right? The Mac feature that makes it look like your phone.
I know what Stage Manager is, and I'm in that category of people who does not like it.
Yeah, so it vibed for me, so I eventually got rid of the desktops. But the beauty of Beads and actually the beauty of Gastown, right? Because they're all Tmux, is that in terminals is that they really work with like any workflow. And I don't even want to necessarily be super opinion about it. Some people use Gastown in single player mode, where it's just one window and they just talk to the mayor and they just say do XYZ and they have a conversation and the mayor handles everything for them. I'm in power user mode where I have my rigs because I want to maximize parallelism and keep things working. So I like to swarm over here, anywhere that's independent, right?
Sure. That's right. And so, when you're working with the mayor, I know you, and I like to do this too, right? Use the crews for the design piece and the review of the design piece. But then you actually have the mayor shred everything into beads. There you go. Let's swarm those BZ files. So here, right? Once you have the beads, then you're like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And who you're talking to Emma. Who's
Yeah.
Emma?
Emma is my PR sheriff, although she was just helping me roll back the giant fiasco that Gastown made by ripping everything out of Beads ahead of schedule. So she fixed that. And so Emma is my PR sheriff on the Bead side, and Max is my PR sheriff on the Gastown side. These roles just evolved over time where I was like, every morning I wake up, here, I'll show you. Okay, I'm going to tell Max to do this. Yes, follow on. In a moment, I will show you the PR sheriff workflow. This is how I'm writing. My next blog post is called Vibe Maintainer. And it's about being a maintainer on vibe coded projects that are getting like 100 PRs a day. Here, how many total open PRs do I have for Gastown and Weeds? Okay, plus the mayor.
I
So
know that you talk while you type. Do you ever do voice input?
Yeah, it's just that I'm using Max Terminal for stupid reasons, historical reasons. I should be using Ghosty or something better.
No, no. I mean, I
Yeah,
use Whisper Flow, and it allows me to record
yeah, they
and
do.
do
They do.
voice in whatever window.
And you also need Super Whisper because the default Mac transcription is not very good. So if you put it all together, yeah, you can get a really good. I should be talking more. I usually save that for when the prompt is longer than about, and then I'll
I
switch.
find that I have a normal typing speed of about 80 words a minute, and with voice, I get about twice that.
Hey, you want to see something cool that Gastown did for me? Oh,
Yeah.
30, 39 AI Vampire Touchgrass. This file we're looking at in Emacs here. Gastown image number 39, Touchgrass. Series context. This is image number 39 in the Gastown series. Established style. Whimsical Victorian steampunk, warm brass, copper amber, Studio Ghibli meets chemistry lab. Cozy industrial, not Pixar, not Mad Max, not photorealistic. This is a 400 line, 500 line prompt for a nano banana picture that went into one of my blog posts. The last one, the AI Vampire one.
So this is where you get your gas sound pictures.
Yeah, I make Gastown make them. I tell Claude Code, all right, we're going to make a picture of this subsystem and this problem. Here's the blog post. And I've used the same characters in the same prompt. And so I have a condensed one that's the overall prompt that I use for this, so they don't have to read all the old ones. This is my master prompt of 600 lines of how I get my style. And and I have Claude Code manage it all within the context of Gastown.
So that's really cool. Where did that? So you didn't write that 400 line description, but how? What's the prompt? You just say, "Here's the blog post. Here's the problem. Here's the style I want. Go make me a image."
Yeah, right. It's a meta prompt. So I have it all in
Yep.
my history somewhere. I could probably find it. But I busted out the dictation and I did a big long story about the style that I wanted. And I said, turn that into a nano banana prompt. And it was just
Mhm.
real. And I was like, oh, I get it. This is the way I'm going to blog from now on. And so I set up a
Yep.
pipeline, set up Cloud Cowork to actually like call the Nano Banana API, download the pictures locally. I can preview them. I mean, I guess if you're a storyteller, pictures help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, I'm finding that kind of stuff all over the place, right? Where, I've been building whole apps, right? I had, for my taxes this year, I loaded them all my previous year's taxes into a Git repo. And then I told Claude Code it was my tax accountant and to ask me all the questions it needed and use the history from previous years to give me a full list of all the documents that I needed.
Yeah.
And then I said, now go fire up Claude for Chrome to go and download all of those. And they come as some dumb file names, right? With
Yeah.
quids in them, or they're all called get document.pdf or whatever. And so as they came in, they all went into an intake folder. And then I said, okay, now any documents that end up in that folder, go figure out what it is, give it a reasonable name, and go put it in the right subfolder so the CPA has the right data that they need and then check it off the list. And that's how I gathered all of and this is one of, dozens of apps that, I just build now because the agents can do the work, right?
Yeah. So let's run the PR sheriff. So there are 30 open PRs on Gastown right now, which is low. Let's run the DT PR sheriff. And so they're often hooked on. So I hook Emma and Max with a bead that's title is GTPR sheriff or BDPR sheriff, the pull request sheriff, right? So you can give beads your own identifiers. You don't have to use the hash ID they came up with.
And so what's in that bead? Can you show us that bead? Because I think you alluded to this earlier. You were talking, and we've talked about this before, where a bead
Sure.
actually contains
I've never
like
looked
an
at
agent identity.
this.
Was that?
I've never looked at a bead before. I have no idea what to do. Okay, this one's just a reference to the town HQ because they're sharing, right? So I got to show HQ PR. It's the shared bead that they both point to, and it's the instructions for the sheriff role. Okay, so that's the bead. There. What it does in a nutshell is it says go find all the PRs that are open, split them into three groups. The
Mhm.
instantly closable, which is like drafts. Just I don't want to see drafts. Get rid of close them until they're ready. Uh, the easy wins, that are just obvious, easy. You should just merge them. And then the hard ones. It splits them into those groups. It's doing that right now. It will merge all the easy ones for me automatically.
So just take some percentage off the top. It's like this one's good. It just
Yep.
fixes an obvious problem. Just do
And
it.
it's usually about a third to a half of them are easy wins.
And so
Uh,
what's an example of an easy win that you
well,
have confidence in your agents to just merge?
we'll see one shortly, but I mean they're
Okay.
typically on the order of this is an obvious bug where the flag was supposed to accept a blah, but it didn't, and it threw a panic, and we're just going to fix it. That kind of stuff, right? Bug fixes, real simple feature parity, fillers or whatever, that kind of thing.
Got it.
Um,
Got it.
the harder ones that require human review are things like they added a feature, they changed storage layout, they added a cache, a performance set, a giant security set of fixes or whatever. All right, so let's look at the summary. Okay, it's funny they run it a little different every time. It doesn't really matter, but it's not consistent. You just
Well,
gotta
you could obviously, if you cared about the format, you could tell it what format to output into, right?
I could, but since it's always, oh my God. So it gave me, it's so first of all, in Tmux, you can just scroll back with a mouse wheel, right? I don't
And
know.
you can, if you either set it up properly to do that, or use tmux under command control. If you don't do it that way, you have to set it up. This I
Yeah.
learned the hard way
Right.
doing tmux.
I just learned Tmux. Somebody in Anthropic told me, an engineer told me that she was really glad that I chose Tmux. So Anthropic is aligned on the whole Tmux thing. That's nice.
Oh yeah, that's how they built their agent teams, right? It's
But I'm still learning it, and I didn't know for weeks that I could just use the mouse wheel to scroll. After we changed it to be mouse mode by default, mouse mode is a better mode, to be honest. You should configure your Gastown to be in mouse mode. I think that's the default now.
and that was the thing, right? Unless it is, tmux doesn't do the right thing. So I was glad when Gastown moved to mouse mode.
Yeah. So right, like says easy wins merge directly. I can go look at them. I can ask questions about them, but it's got the whole list here for you, right? Where it went. So like this easy one right here, easy win. It's 2 lines of code in one file. It was where did the 2 liner go? There it is. 1 line addition of depends on Tmux recommended to the homebrew formula. We forgot
Right?
to add Tmux dependency for homebrew, right? That's an easy win, right? And
For sure.
so the way I've set it up, the easy wins generally I trust them, right? In fact, many of the difficult ones, they're actually Claude's fairly conservative, which is good in this case. But dude, the wonderful thing here, man, is that I come in the morning. It's the dream. I come in with my coffee, and I'm like, and I wake everyone up, and I'm like, run the PR workflow, right? I should have a cron that does it before I wake. My alarm clock should trigger them. So when I come in, all the PRs that came in from all around the world overnight from contributors, a
Mhm.
bunch of them just get merged automatically. And all of the rest of them have analyses. And then what I do is I say, okay, well, okay, hand off to your successor. Okay, farm these human review ones out to proof for detailed review and have them give me print recommendations for. That's my general workflow. Okay. So now, first of all, it's at a compaction threshold. You probably can't see, but it's at 3% left. So that's why I
Oh
say,
yeah, I see it. 3%. You can see on the screen. Yeah.
yeah, really, it's you should get into the habit of doing this. Okay. I'm just going to do this. GT handoff. We're done with Emma. She did her thing. No, I probably should have done like a git status just to see if she's, left some work lying around or whatever. We can clean that up. But
Sure. Sure.
GT handoff is just like, just run it aggressively like all the time so that you don't hit compaction, because you can in the handoff you can tell it you want to hook a bead to work on. You can send itself a mail, give it the context, right? It just makes better decisions that way, and it keeps your context short. So anyway, so that's what I did it, and now look, she's doing it. She's running it. I did a GT handoff and she's now running the sheriff workflow again. She didn't have to. She'll probably find the same thing as she did last time, but this is how you be a vibe maintainer. You just trust the AIs, and then when there's review required, you dive in with it. Let's go. Okay, so see how it's nudging everybody over in the blue? Max nudged Joe, Jack, George. It's all men on Gastown because there were Furiosa. All the women are polecats because I used them for polecat names, and so my poor sexist Max crew. But almost all of the workers are women over on the Jane Austen side, which makes up for it. Um, So, yeah, you gotta worry about these things. I actually got
Sure.
called at a conference. Uh, you,
Oh,
you,
no.
you want your factory workers to be all genders. Anyway, this is fantastic because now I'm going to cycle through them with that key I showed you earlier. We're going to go and look at each one. Here's Nell. Nell freed up 2.6 gigabytes by killing a refinery. Tom is working on something that Max gave Tom. Dennis is doing nothing yet. So you go through each one and you just kind of see where they're at. And this is why I say don't watch them working, right? Instead, go to one of the agents and have it farm work out to them. And when you cycle through them when they're done. And it's just you're just literally going, give me a report, give me a report, give me a report.
That's right. And it's again, I mean, I've heard it's kind of a tired metaphor at this point, right? That software engineering, all of us, our job has just been changed from software engineer to software engineering manager, right? And so just like a human manager, well, a good human manager wouldn't stand over your shoulder and watch you type,
Oh
right?
yeah.
A manager of a gas town agent doesn't do the same thing, right? You care about the results, you care about the output, and there's characteristics you care about, right? You dial up the quality to where you want it to be, and you make that part of the requirements, and you have a formula that goes through the steps to make sure that you are checking for what you need in the tests and the quality and the characteristics that you're looking for in the exact same way that an engineering manager does, right? Hey, did you remember to do this? Did you remember to do all the test run? Are we making sure we're not duplicating code and et cetera, right?
Yep. So yeah, that's Gastown in a nutshell. I can say, hey, let's oops, go over to here and say, let's swarm some more Gastown beats with a big fat convoy, and it'll go and work on some more bug. So this is a beautiful thing about Gastown is you can make it generate work, right? I can say,
Yep.
okay, let's kick off a code review. We are going to rip SQLite out soon. But for now, let's focus on looking for redundant systems or something, right? Whatever. Look, how about this? Let's kick off a code review for code smells. Now you could actually do a more complicated one. You could say, I want every worker on my crew and a bunch of polecats to all go off and review separate dimensions of my project.
Sure. Look at it from different points of view.
I did this the other day. This is how I got Gastown to almost 1.0 readiness. We'll be launching an updated version of it soon, and it's getting really stable. As you see, we haven't really had we only had one bug. We've seen one bug in this entire session, right?
That's right.
Which was I thought that I was exiting the TMUX session and I killed the mayor, the actual
That's right.
plug session, which I believe I told them to file a fix. So listen, shall we see if it's fixed?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do we ever figure out what
Here,
the cause was?
hey, we filed a bug earlier about me accidentally killing the mayor's session with Control B. Is that fixed yet? Right. So like I don't try very hard to keep track what's fixed, what's open. All I know is how I want it to work. And if it's not working, I say go find the status of this. Did we implement it already and it's not wired up? Is it broken? Is it unimplemented? It's still a spec. Did we forget to file beads? I often don't know, right? But look at this. We didn't file a bug. We investigated it. The conclusion was it correctly maps to detached client. It says I'm a liar.
That's right. That's exactly what it says.
It does. Look, it says most likely Claude just decided to exit on its own the very instant you typed that key. Do you
Yeah, that
believe that?
seems unlikely.
Come on. Come on. You decided to suddenly quit after I hit Control B D. See, this is where it gets interesting. Right? Opus
Oh
kind of
yeah.
has humor. Opus is smart. Opus is gonna be like, yeah, that's probably not very likely.
That's right. I run into this all the time. Oh, that's not a problem. I looked at the
Look at
code.
this.
It's totally fine.
We investigated. I presented the finding. I investigated myself and found nothing wrong, no wrongdoing. So this is part of why it's fun, right? Look, I get that if you're at work and your boss is asking you when's the feature done, and it's giving you the runaround like this, you can be really frustrated. Which is why I tell people don't use Gastown. But this is the no, fair point. You're right. Yeah, that's me quitting. So the mayor doesn't. So if Cloud Code exits, yeah, but yes, but I want the mayor to continue running if the TMUX session dies. That's what the TMUX session is for, right?
Yep.
Session is for, so I can reconnect with another device or whatever.
Actually, this is fun for me too because I've never seen you talk to agents before, right? So I know
Right.
how I do it, and I've seen other people do it, but I've never seen you do it. This is fun for me too.
I mean, I just talk to them like they're like, like, you know what I mean? Like they're just another one of us, and we're just
I find that to be pretty effective way to do it, right? Which is that doesn't make any sense. A lot of the times I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is there's this bug in this software that has been around for years that millions of developers have used that we've suddenly discovered when against our brand new software that no one's ever used with us. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty unlikely. It's probably our bug,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So be suspicious. It's usually our bug. So over here, when we rebooted Emma, she merged 3 PRs. And over here, Max merged 6 PRs, actually merged 5, easy wins, and dispatched 6. So as we spoke, 9 PRs got merged and 8 PRs got merged, and 6 of them were dispatched to crew. And now she's working on that code review, right? Oh God, no,
That-
no, 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 no. Wait, what is she doing? PRs? PRs. Okay, so this is a heresy that shows up in Gastown all the time. Gastown working on itself. It always files PRs. It's really annoying. Like Anthropic, if you're listening, for God's sake, train your models. When I say don't file PRs, don't file PRs. I'm the maintainer. Anyway, other than the fact that it looks like it created a bunch of pull requests from my own code base, or no, I'm sorry. Is it running? Okay, I just want to make sure. It does this often, but this time I see what it's doing. Okay, remember how I said it runs the sheriff workflow differently every time?
that's right.
So it's just Emma is presenting me with a format that I've never seen before. Thank you, Emma. What Emma did was she sent the reviews out to all the crew and got the reviews back and showed them in this compact format right here. This one from Sean Bearden is 355 lines. She's telling me the verdict is go back and ask him for changes, right, etc. Okay, I'm gonna add one more thing and then we'll finish the PR. We like to fix plus merge the PRs. Let's help get them to the finish line. Okay. Okay. So that's the final guidance I give to the because man, like I've got a community. I'm so grateful to these 2 communities, the Beads and the Gastown communities, for sending me PRs, bugs in my code, right? I mean,
Sure.
I'm great. And in fact, I have promoted 2 of them to maintainers. My top 2, my top contributor in Gastown and my top contributor in Beads, both have the ability to review PRs now and commit directly. And I want to stay. I want to stay on top of this, right? I don't want to give friction to them. And the AIs by default, Claude will be like, "Well, there's a merge conflict, so shoo, send it back to the drawing board." And I'm like, "Yo,
Right.
yo, 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 come on! Can we give him a little help? Can we get him? Can we help him get over the finish line?" And this is all that stuff you saw in the PR Sheriff Bead, right? It's basically the contributor friendly principle is right here at the end. Help them get to the finish line. We value their effort and we want to land good work. So they may so it's common for them to send garbage. They'll send a PR that's 20,000 lines that has a bunch of random unrelated changes in it. And they just scooped up their environment and made it a PR.
And shipped it in as a PR.
Right. And it turned out there was one good fix in there that they actually were trying to give us. And so we just cherry pick it and merge it with attribution, give them credit, right? And close their PR.
For sure.
So the AI can do this. And so I just ask it to. And so that's my lesson on. So that's how I use Gastown. So seriously, I use it to generate work by saying, let's talk about this design, now file some beads. Or let's do a code review, file some beads. Or here, I see a new technology I should be looking at, like agent teams or like Datomic. Please go
Sure.
investigate and give me some recommendations. And then once it's all in beads, it's just swarming, right? Swarming, validation, checking, all that. And that's Gastown. But I love there's some edge case workflows you can get into where like I can tell Emma, go tell Max to do that. And Max will send the report back to Emma. They all know about each other. They can mail each other. Sometimes they boss each other around. So that's kind of a fun angle. But yeah.
Do you have visibility or do you look at their mail between them?
Oh yeah, you see it. You see it all. Fun to read.
I think so too. I've watched agents talk to each other a bunch, and I find that's super useful. I'm with you. I'm a big fan. I like to watch all the agents work. I like to watch all the beads change status over time. I like to watch all the mail go through. I just like it gives me a pulse.
They will give each other pep talks. They will congratulate each other. They'll say, "Oh my God, Lizzie was on a tear. She closed 15 other people's bugs and cleaned up two PRs and blah blah blah. Let's throw a party!" And it's just like, seriously. I mean, it's fun to watch them work. You know. So I would recommend, yeah, paying a little bit of attention. And again, you can cycle through, you can always pick the list and eavesdrop. You can eavesdrop on any one of them at any time and go see what they're doing. But you can even see, like, this bottom screen is a view into that agent. Unfortunately, the TMUX author didn't scroll it all the way to the bottom. You're looking at something up from the bottom, which is weird. It's not the bottom of the, and so I actually
Sure.
submitted, I thought I submitted a PR to TMUX to get that fixed, and I think it got lost one day. But if you see where we're going with this is TMUX, terminal multiplexing, is fundamentally conversation multiplexing. It's work
That's right.
stream.
I mean, the way I like to think about it is less about these are team up sessions and more these are individual agents in my system. And in
And the,
fact, you can tell by the names, right? These are crew members, these are polecats, this is the mayor, this is a witness, right?
the
That's you can tell what's going on.
yeah, I like it. So
So here's my next question. You mentioned stabilizing towards 1.0 a
oh
couple
yeah.
of times. Do you want to tell us about your plans for the next version of Beats? You mentioned Dolt a few times. The next version of Gastown. You mentioned the 1.0 a few times. What's
Yeah. So we're on a very, so we've been waiting for a moment, and that moment is today. Today. So by the time people see this, it'll be old news. But we've been, the Dolt company is so invested in beads and Gastown. They're the ones who noticed the overlap, that they had solved the beads problem. And I didn't know. I was very skeptical. And when I read about it, I was just like, wow, right? So like the alignment is just, it couldn't be better. And so they wanted to make it as smooth as possible. And we talked about the whole Dalton Git thing. That lands today. Their blog post is going out. And then with Dalton Git, that means we'll be able to have beads be pure Dolt. Your beads will go up as binaries. You won't be able to sneak a peek in the JSON-L file anymore, but that was a stupid format that was row level contention, and Dolt merges at the cell level. So it's way cleaner and smoother. It's the way a database should be, right? And so you're going to still get it up on Git with your code, and you'll be able to do all the queries of the how and the why and the what
sure?
to get what we
That's
talked
right.
about. It's going to be beautiful. No daemon, no syncing, no three-way merge, none of that stuff. It's all gone. It's just Dolt and beads, and it's beautiful. That comes out tomorrow.
What version will that be? The new version of Beats.
The new version of beads will be 0.50.0.
Okay,
That'll be
great.
that'll be the first one that's true Dolt native by default. It'll have migration tools for you. And after a week or so, when everyone's migrated, we will rip the SQLite support out and it'll automatically migrate you. And then we will direct you to Jeffrey Emanuel's Beads Rust, which is an
Yep.
outstanding tight implementation of the original beads that you can use
Yep.
if you
That's
want
right.
that. So we will have Beads and Gastown both out, 0.6.0. After a week or so of community testing and feedback, I think we'll probably be ready to take Gastown to 1.0. As you saw, so V1, as you saw from our session just now, it was working great. Everything that I did
Yeah.
rectifying that one bug, which was actually a disagreement over how it should work. And compared to how Gastown's been for me over the last 2 weeks during the Dolt migration, where I was
Sure.
like
Sure.
huddled around a markdown document that was my war room and with no workers running, and it was naked Claude code for 3 days. It was bad. It's beautiful. It's really working well. I hammered it with swarm after swarm, convoys, and it's stable. So we're going to get a Gastown 1.0, right? That doesn't mean it's safe, but it means it's stable. And that's going to enable us to get to Saturday. Saturday, we're going to roll out as soon as possible. We're going to get everybody federating the gas towns through Dolt. Dolt. We're going to put it on Dolt Hub. We'll do announcements about it. There'll be a lot more information on gastownhall.ai, right? But basically, we're going to get the community together that we've got on Discord now that we've got Dolt to be able to share beads at scale without all the syncing and tripping and all that. We're going to be able to actually build something together and maybe many things together, right? So we're going to be like,
About, let me back you up, right? You're talking about a centralized place where I can take my gas town and hook it up and allow it to be used as one node in a larger set of gas towns, all working on individual pieces of a larger project.
yes.
And what should that project be? Do we know?
Well, the first one, I mean, right, should be Gas City because, why not get some help with it? Gas City is when I was building Gastown, I started to realize that it was expressive enough that I could have built it in itself and not had a bunch of hard coded Go code for the mayor and the witnesses and the
Sure.
polecats and the refinery. They're all just patrols. They're just priming patrols, hooks, skills, just a handful of basically declarative setup, and then you've got to roll. And why not just be able to build any arbitrary enterprise business process as a gas town role, right? So that was the origin of Gas City. And I think we should build it as a community using the Wasteland, the federated stuff. And we're going to be sharing beads and what we're going to figure out how it works. We're literally ahead of the researchers here. We are doing the research at the frontier of system of systems. So a gas town is like a person now, like an agent in a larger system. And it's not like Molt Blip where we're like, you're a lobster, go be weird. It's not like that. We're saying, look, this is for the future of humanity. How are humans and agents going to organize to produce software at scale? And we're going to be the ones to figure it out. I'm super excited by this.
Um, I was following along with Gastown and trying it out, and of course, you heard about my early experiences with beads, and you're my friend, and I want you to succeed, and I tried your stuff and gave you feedback, and you heard it, and that was great. And but the thing that made me set up gastownhall.ai, because I built the website, I set up the social media account, I built the Discord server. I never asked you if I could do any of that. I was inspired. I couldn't help myself. All those years of building developer tools and ecosystems and communities, right? I'm like, Steve is out there building all this stuff, and there is a community, but there's no place for them to be, for them to go, right? And so that's where the Discord came from, and the website, and the docs, and the social media site, and all that came from. I was super inspired by not just Gastown, but the tipping point for me was Gas City, right? When that blog post came out about Gas City, I'm like, holy crap! This engine for building engines, right, is what you've done, right? With conceptually what with Gas City. And so the interesting thing about that is, I mean, right now, Gastown is it's a monolith, right? It's you plunk it down and you get crews and polecats and the deacon and dogs and cats, and it's anarchy, right? And it is specifically from the mind of Steve Yegge. And you can do it amazing things if you want to do it the way Steve Yegge does it, right? And there's a bunch of different ways you can use it and you can configure it and whatever.
That's right.
But the thing that makes Gas City exciting to me is that not only can you build up an orchestration system yourself based on your own way of working, but other people, in different industries can set up their own orchestration system, right? If you think of beads as the universal way to express work, then Gas City is the universal way to express workers, right? The pipeline. How do you put them all together to accomplish work, right?
Yeah.
And so it's all of that, which is amazing, but also because it is kind of the engine for building engines, that means that everyone has an onboarding, right? That a lot of people, a lot of times I hear you tell people, hey, just start with the mayor, and you get beads and you get all that stuff. Just even if you just use the mayor, right? And but what it allows you to do is you can build up your own orchestration. Hey, I want a mayor, or I want a governor, or I just want a worker, and I'll be the mayor in my head. And you can build it up over time and add things over time. And that's what Gas City is, and that's what got me excited. And that's
Shape agent organizations and agent human organizations and say, I want a data science team and a product team and whatever team.
that's right.
Those are my
That's right.
I want SREs with a particular pipeline, or I want to replace this database ETL, or whatever it is. Like,
Hmm.
just sky's the limit. You have all the benefits of Gastown, which is you have you have the ability to have groups of agents reaching consensus about things, like by communicating with each other. So, in other words, you have resilience, you have persistence in the ledger and agent identities, observability, and a plugin system. Gastown
Hmm.
comes with, all these features. Not to mention, GT Seance. You'll get that. You'll talk to past versions of your worker, right? All this stuff you're going to get, but it's going to be your shape.
Yep, that's right. You could use it to build Ralph. You could use it to build, the way Anthropic has built up their agent teams. You could use it to build up anything.
And you know that the actual proof of it working is when I can rebuild Gastown in it and
That's
use
right.
that, carry the old code with the monolith, right?
That's right. Yeah,
It'll live
where yeah,
through its own.
yes, Gastown is just one of the shapes that comes pre-configured out of the box for Gas City.
Yeah,
And then you can
exactly.
have all the other popular orchestration shapes as well, and then people
Yeah,
can use that as examples to build their own.
yeah. And I think we're going to build a bunch of other stuff too, right? I think it's going to be really remarkable to see how fast stuff comes together. We're going to have 500 gas towns on our wasteland in about 2 weeks. We're going to have to figure out the real basics, like how do two towns talk to each other, and how do we prevent spam and all this. We're going to be doing the Ethereum thing all over again, I think.
For sure, it would be fun. And so well, let me tell folks, right? If you haven't been to gastownhall.ai, you should absolutely go there, and I'll put the links in the description underneath. And you should join up with the Discord, and you should check out the account on x.com. That's where the announcements will be. I'll make sure that the website has kind of the call to action and the announcements on the Discord and et cetera. So that as we roll these things out, as Steve gives us the next version of Beads, as Steve gives us the next version of Gastown, and we figure out, well, how do we organize? That's where to look, right? In terms of how to get involved if you want to, volunteer your machine and help build Gas City and all of the pieces and parts that need to be part of it. So
Yeah, and help us figure out the future of multi-town systems of systems.
yeah, and that's what you're building. And it's interesting because, you hear about the researchers pulling together, 100 agents over 2 weeks, building a C compiler from scratch. And that's cool, but they're all in isolation, right?
Yeah,
And
this is
all of the way they do it is all secret. And the code that they use to harness everything together is all secret. And it's not, across companies or across organizations. As you say, right? We'll be on the cutting
well,
edge learning how to do all of this stuff.
maybe, I mean, to your point, maybe we should offer the wasteland up for researchers who want to actually try stuff out. But,
I think we absolutely should encourage researchers and work with them to plug
right.
in and see what they can do.
Well, I think we're about to create something pretty magical. So, keep your eye on it.
I think you've already created two magical things that have kind of captured lightning in a bottle. And the working with you on Gas City, which is number three. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, very hopeful.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. This is our first one has been epic. I don't expect all of them to be this long, but we had some foundation to lay. Thanks for your time today, and I'll let you get back to Gastown and everyone listening at home. We'll see you.
Yeah, and Chris, thanks so much for putting this community together, man. I mean, much appreciated. This is awesome stuff.
I was inspired. It was my pleasure.